What's going on, guys? My name is Christian Lombardi. I'm a content creator here in HBLC Marketing, and welcome to another video. I hope you guys remember from last time when we did the step into manual mode video. Well, this video is the continuation of that video. So I already assume that you know the basics of manual photography, and from here we're gonna step up and understand the rest of the tools that the camera has to offer to make your job a lot easier. So in this video, we're going to be covering RAW versus JPEG, full frames versus crop frame sensors, or picture profiles and white balance. It's very important for all these basic concepts to be really clear in your mind when you go out in the field taking photos, so you are not fiddling around all your camera and at the end you go back home with an empty memory card. Let's get started with RAW versus JPEG. Everything comes down to what are you going to do at the end with the final image that you're getting. So, for example, in my case, if I'm snapping photos around and I'm not going to post-produce the images, I'm not going to put them into Lightroom or Photoshop to then further develop them, then I will just simply use JPEGs because they take less space in your memory card, they're easier to read, you can send them over to any device and it will automatically recognize it as an image. With the RAW photos, the story is different. So it will give you most of the information that the camera can read in the highlights and the shadows. Therefore, you're gonna have a lot more dynamic range. You're gonna be able to recover a lot more information in your images, and then you're gonna have way more flexibility in post-production. For example, when I shoot my commercial projects, I always shoot in RAW because in my brain I'm already thinking on the way that I'm going to post-process these images and the way that I'm gonna crop them and color grade them, etc. So point number 2, full frame versus crop sensor. So full frame cameras are cameras that have an internal digital sensor equivalent to a 35mm film from the old school analogic cameras. And the crop sensor cameras have a crop sensors, as the name says, or a smaller portion of that sensors inside the camera bodies. They have their benefits, their advantages, and the drawbacks for both of them. It all comes down to how much do you want to invest and what's the use that you're gonna give to that camera. Full frame cameras tend to be more expensive, have a wider field of view, have a shallower depth of field, and generally have a higher megapixel counts. For the crop sensor cameras, they are way cheaper to buy, which is good if you're starting or you don't want to invest too much into photography at the beginning. They also have a crop factor in the sensor. This means that when you put a lens, it will be more zoomed in. So if you're taking a photo of something, let's say you're taking a photo of a model with a 35mm lens, in a full frame camera will look like you're standing right there by the model with a 35mm angle. And if you put it into a crop sensor camera, it gives you generally a 1.6 crop factor. This means that it's around 75mm, so it's gonna look way more zoomed in. So you have to step back, or you have to take advantage of that sensor to get closer to the subject. So the point number 3 is the picture profile. And you only have to care about picture profile when taking photos if you're shooting in JPEG. Any of the changes that the camera will apply for a photo that is taken in RAW will not apply when you pass it into your editing software. But if you're taking the memory stick of your camera and keeping the JPEG files, then this is for you. So the picture profile of your camera is a set of instructions that you set your camera at, so it applies a certain look to your images. This could be the contrast, the saturation, the sharpness, and the temperature. So you gotta be aware of the type of settings that you're using. Generally, they come preset as portrait, natural, neutral, landscape, and some user-defined picture profiles. So feel free to play with them and see if you like them, to see how they look. Just bear in mind that it's going to be very difficult to change if you're shooting in JPEG and you already have your picture profile baked into your image. If you're shooting in RAW, this doesn't apply to you. The fourth point is white balance. White balance is a super important setting, especially if you're shooting JPEGs, or if you're shooting video with your camera, you have to have the right white balance in your camera. This is the tool that helps your camera to interpret the white tones of your image as pure white. So basically, it comes in presets the same way as the picture profile, so you can set it for a cloudy day, for a sunny day, for an indoor, for tungsten lighting, or for fluorescent lighting. And these are a range of different temperatures, generally expressed in kelvins, that tell your camera, hey, this is warm or this is cold. And you will see that your color in the image, like in this video, is changing according to the temperature that I'm setting up my camera. Or you could also set your white balance to a custom value by telling your camera the exact Kelvin degrees that you want the white balance to be interpreted at. And this will help you to create a mood or environment in your scene, but also you want to get it right in camera. So you want your whites to be true white in camera, because the color correction is going to be much harder after if you want to get real tones, for example, in the skin, which are very, very important. If not, people can think that you're sick or it doesn't look appealing to the eye. The fifth point is focusing modes. Basically, your camera has different settings to set up automatic focusing modes or the manual mode. Generally, I never use manual focusing modes in my camera unless I'm doing something very specific for video work. For photos, really, I will always rely on my automatic focusing system. They are so good nowadays that there is really no reason of why not to use them. And they now have even like eye recognition, animal eye recognition, face recognition. They are unbelievable nowadays. So there is no reason of why not to use a tool that will help you so much in photography. So there are two basic settings that you can configure in your camera to get the most out of it and to get the most precise focusing depending on the situation that you're using. For example, there is continuous focusing mode. This should be used when you're taking photos of subjects that are moving suddenly or in a fast speed. Let's say you're trying to take photos of your dog running in the garden, or you have a friend that is skating and you want to get him right in focus when he's skating towards you. So it's very important, and it's a very fast way of focusing. So continuous focusing mode will hunt all the way backwards and forward, trying to get the right subjects in focus. And the other automatic focusing mode is the one-shot focusing mode. Basically, the camera will hunt for focus in every single frame you take. It's very useful if you're taking photos of models, of food, of something that is not moving too much. So you can refocus in the model, refocus on the new composition, and the camera will go and readjust depending on how much you have moved. Every time you press the shutter, the camera resets and then hunts again for focus. This is very useful for this kind of like more static kind of cases where you don't have much movement in your images. And one last point that I want to take, this is the bonus point for staying until the end, because of most of you always ask me, Christian, which camera should I go for? Which camera should I buy? This is the big dilemma. Everyone argues and fights against it. For me, I really do not care. Cameras are a tool, and at the end, the result you're getting it because of your photography skills, and the camera is just the driving vehicle of that result. Basically, DLRs versus mirrorless. Obviously, technology is evolving more and more, and incredible cameras are coming out in the market in both DSLR and mirrorless worlds, but there is a fair discussion here. Let's go. DSLR cameras are generally heavier than mirrorless cameras. They're bigger. They generally are faster, so you can get more photos per second, like in the case of the Canon 1DX Mark III that just came out. There are a bunch of different cameras that are coming now that are absolutely insane. So DSLRs have less electronic components, have less screens and stuff and things to faff around, so there are a lot less power consumers. Therefore, your battery will last longer. And in the other hand, you have the mirrorless cameras, which are lighter, generally cheaper, And nowadays they are very, very fast as well. They're probably not as fast as the 1DX Mark III, but they're still very good. Like for example, the Sony A9, the new Canon EOS R, and all these new models that keep coming out of nowhere. Every week we get a new mirrorless coming out, and it's just unbelievable. If it was me in the time and day right now, I'll definitely go for a mirrorless camera, especially after my experience in the photography world and these many years that I've been producing content. I realize how important it is for creators nowadays to have a very compact system that you can carry everywhere, that you can travel with, and it's very, very light. I'm curious to know, guys, what you're using now. Do you prefer mirrorless over your DSLR? Which type of gear are you using right now, and which type of settings do you prefer? It's always interesting to get to know other photographers' point of view. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. I hope you learned something new, and definitely see you in the next video. You understood what I tried to say?